Welcome to this week's version of Volunteer Corner. Now, when it comes to volunteer, we've got two champions here, and it's great. Now, Margaret Hopkins, who I've known, you live in Old South, where we do, Margaret, you're great, but you insisted that Eleanor...
The Christmas market.
Christmas market, that's right. But what's your last name again, Eleanor?
Huber.
Huber, that's right. She insisted that I'll be part of it because they volunteer, and it's pretty great. But why don't, before you and I get into it, Margaret, tell me a bit about Eleanor. How do you know her?
Eleanor? Well, we've come together through volunteering for all these years because Eleanor is my mentor.
Really?
Yes, because she's been volunteering in our community for over 50 years.
That's quite a track record.
As long as OSCO's been alive, Eleanor has been there.
And OSCO is?
The Old South Community Organization,
correct,
celebrating its 50 years this year,
amazing.
Advocating for the community.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so she's been your mentor. So did she
I'd
twist
say
your arm, or did you just come by volunteering naturally?
Well, I have to blame Fraser Petley for that,
Okay.
who was then president of the Old South Community Organization in 2007. He said, Margaret, I could use a little help with volunteering. And we know where that progressed to.
Yeah. Well, you know Jane Walker, right?
Yes.
Jane and I, we go to the same church, often sit together. But she and you are very similar to me. You're just nonstop volunteering all the time. What's a bit about your background, Eleanor?
Well, as far as volunteering, I think my proudest moment is my involvement with the Gathering on the Green.
Yeah.
I'm happy to report that you're now speaking to the woman who named the Gathering on the Green.
Did you? Yeah.
When we, some of the neighbors and members of the South London Communities Association, Janet McEwen being the most, the name that most people would remember. Yeah. The rumors were that the green and the building were being looked at very carefully by developers. So we were determined that this magnificent center of South London just could not be destroyed, removed, altered, apartment buildings put up on the green, never. So we consulted with someone who I can't remember now who that was. It was so long ago. And he said the best way to save it is to make the green important to the community, activities on the community. So out of that was born the Gathering on the Green. And this part of my telling is a confession, because I have to tell you that I purloined a fairly old sheet. I was working at Victoria Hospital at the time, and I took home a thin sheet. I keep telling myself it was on its way out, and tore it, sewed it together into a very long strip, and with some green porch paint, wrote Gathering on the Green. And happily, there is still an old photograph, black and white photograph, where we climbed up on the fire escape stairs and put this big sign, The Gathering on the Green. We had about 3 booths. We sold hot dogs. We had a book sale. We had a dog show. We had odds and ends of simple activities. But that was the beginning of the Gathering on the Green. And now when I go, and I go every year, I feel so proud. It's a beautiful, beautiful gathering of our community. Yeah. Everybody knows the spot is the green. And of course, the building is saved. Yeah. Many thanks to, for the most part, to our provincial
Chris Bentley.
He's the man who arrived with the money. Ours was the enthusiasm. He had the money, which was essential. And after they poured all his millions, or I guess they were our millions, weren't they, into the building, we knew it was not going to come down.
No, I was an MP at that time as well, and Chris was talking to me about that. There was so much that had to be done on his part.
Yes.
But I have some bad news for you. You said that was a confession, but I'm not a priest, so I can't absolve you. But I don't think we can do that anyway. That was a major good thing that you did there. That's I remember all that really well. I came to Old South in '76 and have been here ever since. Yeah. So. Now, Margaret, you and I were out last night with Jane and our sanitarian and a number of others.
Yes.
They're putting up these chalets where we were storing them down at Thames Park. What's the story behind that?
The chalets?
Yeah.
Well, they started, I've got it actually right here with me. This is from the Neighborhood Decision Making Program. It was an idea that was put forward by Eleanor Hubert.
Of course. You're forgiven. Go ahead. Yes.
And the community had the opportunity to vote whether they wanted this to happen or not.
Yeah.
And they did. So, but then Alan and I were aghast because that meant we had to build them.
Yeah.
But fortunately for us, we worked with a number of community partners, Pathways.
Sure.
Paul Hubert.
Yeah.
Yes. So he offered us a space to build in. We had our head construction guy, Jack Schmidt, who works for the City of London, and we assembled
Dr. Monty Muro.
Doc, he made the beautiful shelves in the chalets. And the community, they were literally built by the community. So it was a community effort.
Yeah.
And 2018 was the first year that the market was up and happening.
Yeah.
And in that first year, Eleanor and I basically manned and filled and got volunteers for all of them. And then we got smart. And then we started partnering with people like the food bank. And then how it worked was, okay, here's your chalet. You get your volunteers and fill your chalet with whatever it is you can to earn things to help your organization.
Yeah, whichever organization that was.
Yes,
That's right.
and that has worked out fantastically.
That's great.
Yes.
Now, the time I'd seen you before that, you were at the Wortley Roadhouse, and Jane and I were there, and it had been the Jazz Festival, and you were there to present a check to us, one of those big ones. It was great. We got a good picture of it. But how did that come about?
The blues and jazz?
Well, not just the festival, but the link with the food bank from that.
Well, I'm just a big wanting to support all of our agencies that are suffering. When we hear from yourself that 1 in 4 children are with empty tummies, it says to me that more needs to be done.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, while it is wonderful the work that the food bank is doing to make this happen,
we shouldn't have to do it.
No, we shouldn't.
No. That's right.
It shouldn't be on the backs of private citizens to solve these issues. It should be our governments that make it happen.
Yeah.
And there's something wrong with our wage structure and everything.
Yeah.
If a family cannot survive on the wages they're earning, there's something wrong, and we need to fix that.
It's hard. On the other hand, when governments don't do their job the way that they should, if it's not for communities pulling together and doing, like, how could the food bank only has 9 staff, so how could we help 6,000 families a month with 9 staff? Impossible. It's the volunteers that make it all work. So there's these strange things that are happening as government recedes from the public place and isn't doing what it should. People, good citizens like yourselves, are really showing up and making it happen. But it does seem that it's getting worse. Do you feel that?
Oh, I think it's definitely getting worse. This very morning, I was at the senior alumni lecture at Western, and the speaker was a doctor in charge of pediatric medicine. And the picture he painted is very similar to what you're talking about. There appears to be a crisis, a family crisis. He was, one of the things that really wrenched my heart was his telling that in the past they have needed, when a child comes in mentally deranged and really unable to be controlled, they had a single safe room. And the room now, they now have 5. The rooms have to be completely stripped with just a mattress and a pillow on the floor for these kids who are so out of control that they have to be put in there until they can be dealt with. And so it seemed to me, what registered for me with this was that this is a societal problem. Families are breaking down, poverty, the inability to look after your own children. It's, where do we go? The hospital, he of course was speaking to how strained the system is, and that, he was assuring us that everybody we meet in the hospital behind the scenes is working so hard. They can't do more with what they have, the money, the facilities. But we have a serious problem there, too. It's connected somehow. The people on the street, the difficult cases in the hospital, we have to figure it out somehow. Do we need to, I hate to use the word taxes in today's world, that gets everybody upset, but somehow we have to finance things that are more meaningful.
Yeah. I did want to ask you about the volunteering, though. When you volunteer at a thing like the food bank, or the other worthy groups that you volunteer with, do you have a sense of how important you are?
Not really. No. I just do it.
Yeah.
I do it because, sometimes I have to admit that on the Fridays when I chop the chicken and run the dishwasher at the church, and I'm getting on in years, and I've done it for probably 20 years. And I think, I have to go in there. And then I buck up and say, no, I can do it. I can do it. And away I go. And I always come out feeling that I've done something worthwhile. I think worthwhile, meaningful, those words are important to me.
Yeah. Margaret, how about you?
Well, it's basically, if it's not us doing it, Glenn, then who?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Because I am grateful. I am blessed with everything that I have. So I'm happy. I show my gratitude by giving back.
Yeah.
And I think that the world needs to be more kind.
Yeah.
And we all need to do more.
I think that one of the failures that we've had, I think, is you're seeing a lot in the nonprofit community or the charitable community, a lot of burnout. Now, we're lucky at Atlanta Food Bank because Jane and I are co-executive directors, so we've been there from the beginning. But a lot of places just have one person, and that person has so much to do, right? And it's really hard. But I think the food bank, as we get lots of interviews and others from across the country, is how did you get 4,000 volunteers, right? Like, what did you do that was so different than others? And I don't think we did. I do think that a 5-year-old can volunteer at a food bank because they know the difference between a box of cornflakes and a cantaloupe, right? So if they're sorting, they can do that. So it's not rocket science. On the other hand, though, I think that the food banks themselves would not survive if it was not for this volunteer base, because their numbers are so huge. Like, we went up 91% in 2 years, a couple of years ago, right? And we've only got a staff of 9, like I said. Like, where would you be? And I think we have to do a better job as agencies at saying, look to the community. If it wasn't for the volunteers, you wouldn't be able to look at these places and see the good job that they're doing. But that is one thing I think that has really changed. We've always had volunteers at the food bank. I was a volunteer for almost all my time there when I was a firefighter, and then also when I was in Ottawa. But so we have a real volunteer spirit there. But we would be toast without it. It would mean that you'd have to then do a lot of fundraising to hire staff, do all of that kind of stuff. But you folks need to know, I think, that volunteering is the way of the future. That is the way that compassion in a community is going to be increasingly expressed. Whereas before, we did it through programs and through funding from government and everything else. And those were good systems. I mean, those covered a lot of people. But now with the lack of that, just imagine if nobody cared then, and we'd all be in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
So I think the volunteers have become the chief givers in a community now, and they're not being paid or whatever it is. But a number of them are feeling, and I've talked to lots of them, but a number of them feel despair, that things are getting worse. Is that true for both of you?
Well, I think when I drive home from, I walk away from the church feeling better than when I went in there. And I don't mean that I need a pat on the back. You just recognize that you've done something meaningful. But when you drive home and you go through a section of London where you see people huddled in doorways, you recognize that we're not doing enough, that something's wrong. Something is wrong. And I don't understand I don't understand what is needed. Can volunteers completely solve the problem? I don't think so.
They can't.
They can't.
They can't.
No.
They can't. What about you, Margaret? How do you feel?
Well, it's kind of the same reflection. My husband and I don't really leave the community much, but even within our own community, I'm seeing examples of the poverty. And I speak with, I have a friend who works for Marymount, and she tells me that you'd be surprised, Margaret, that every one of the schools in Wortley, we see children that come from there.
Yeah.
That their families are suffering,
Yeah.
their bellies are empty.
Yeah.
So it's you think everybody, Old South, everybody's good in Old South. Our own community is being impacted by this poverty.
Yeah.
So it's we're not alone.
Yeah.
So we have to do what we have to do to fix it.
There seems to be this unwillingness to, like my parents after the war, my dad was Canadian, but they had been through 3 decades of 2 world wars and a depression.
Yeah.
So by the time they get out of World War II, they had said, enough, right? We need something different, something that's better. Democracy itself was opening up in Canada at that time, and they were pressing because a lot of the veterans were ill, and their wives were trying to handle the household or whatever it is. So we forget that universal health care was largely focused on them at the beginning to try to help those people. But the point was, it was growing and growing. But that generation of people knew what they wanted. And they fought. And they fought in communities. They fought in Parliament Hill. They knew what they want. But there was also collaboration amongst parties in many cases to help that to happen. In an age of an internet and all those other things now, I actually don't know how we would bring the community together or bring those generations together. There's so much division and rancor online. But also there's a lot of people that don't volunteer and are not connected with things. And I think unless that happens and people come together and press for the changes that they want, then it's all going to come down to just how many volunteers does this agency have versus this one. And sometimes that becomes a personality thing. You like this group more than this group, but this group might be the one that are dealing with the most serious issues.
Right.
So I do worry about it, because I think that there are answers if we would come together and press our politicians to join together for these things. So there's no real suffering for a political party to come and say we'll end child poverty, within 11 years, and they don't pay a price for it, right? Or they say yes, we should do something about homelessness, but nothing happens. There's no price. And then when an election comes, only a third of London will vote.
That's my
Right.
real big issue.
So we're not really holding them to account. Let's talk a bit more about volunteering. Where did yours come from? Was it from, you say, church? So was faith part of it? Was it your parents or what?
I think when I look back on my home, I grew up in Strathroy, and lived on a farm, and we always looked after, both certainly our own family, but I think volunteering and helping back then was always connected, or most often connected, with the church. I don't remember any other organizations, government organizations, that looked after people. So, fundraisers, special dinners. Mom was always baking pies. So I guess I learned from example. My dad looked after, we had a next door neighbor on our farm who was deaf. He was also a wonderful poet, but he was by himself, and Daddy always kept a close eye on him. That, I watched that. I recognized that he saw that this neighbor needed help. So you learn. And my biggest concern in today's world is what appears to be family breakdown. That there are so many families that aren't really families anymore. They're poor single mothers or single fathers straining between work, trying to keep things together. Because in our case, we were a big family, 6 kids, and of course the farm provided us, but it wasn't a magic wand. No. We learned to work, and we always had extra veggies and things to give away too.
And you, Margaret, were your parents strong advocates of this kind of thing,
Well,
or are you a unique child?
I'm of Dutch descent.
Yes.
And my parents came over on the boat in 1954 after the Second World War from the Netherlands. So my parents saw all of that destruction.
Terrible. Yeah.
And when they arrived in Canada, were very happy to have a place. And they had a very strong sense of wanting to give back for the gratitude of living in a country where they felt safe. So, Mom and Dad were involved in Woodstock with the Navy vets. My dad was president of the Woodstock Navy vets, and Mom was, at that point, they were called the Renettes. So she had her girls that she would mentor and what have you. So they were always volunteering in the community as well. And that's how I was raised, that we need to give back.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, had it not been for the liberation of the Netherlands by the Canadians, I would not be sitting in front of you here today. So that's how close I came to not being here. So I feel a gratitude, and I need to give back for the grace of being here.
Yeah. I agree. I think though that it's different. You too. I think that I think we as a generation were taught to give back, just as you were saying. I think that's really important. But you would do it whether it was really needed or not. There was a volunteer spirit that was there, was in part of the community, and you were glad to do it. But I just hope that volunteers understand today, I know you two do, but it's not just that there's this need to give back, but the community won't survive if you don't.
That's right.
So it's back to kind of what it was during the Depression, not just churches, but families and others were volunteering and helping, doing all these different things. But I think that the volunteer spirit has probably become the kind of sanctuary where this humanitarianism within Canada lives itself out. There are these other places, people trying to help with Indigenous reconciliation, which is so important, and all of these various causes and everything that's there. But really, volunteerism is bigger than all of that.
And that's another reason why I do what I do, Glenn, is because it's not just me, it's not just Eleanor. In Old South, we have a wonderful bunch of people that are willing to volunteer.
You reflect the group that you're in, right? You become that.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
When I came to Old South in 1999, it was like a haven to me. When I first walked down those street of Wortley, tears came to my eyes because it was home. And this sense and strong sense of community is something we should be replicating throughout our country. And I'm just pleased that I live here because we have wonderful people in our community.
I think for me, South London has always felt like a small town. I feel grateful that I grew up in a small town. When I was growing up, the town had 3,000 people. Now it's somewhere closer to 30,000, 25 to 30,000. But the beautiful mix of young, old, rich, poor, what I call natural way to live, rather than these cloistered communities that are so sterile. I felt immediately, just as Marg does about Old South, that this is natural, this is real, this is the way it should be, and it's very much like a small town. And I think more and more when you see London growing the way it has, you do see, Oak Ridge has a community, Soho has a community. People are feeling more and more the need for that community feeling, that you're not just a person trapped in an hour of traffic on Oxford Street, that your community is home, and there are people who wave at you and speak to you and care about you.
With the food bank, Jane and I have been there for 40 years, as you know, and we're going into our 40th year now. And but what's been an interesting phenomenon is everybody always, when you talk to them about the food bank, they always would say Jane and Glenn.
Of course.
But they're not saying that anymore. This still is said, but not as much. What people are saying now, that's the place with all the volunteers. And if there's anything we would have hoped for at the very beginning 40 years ago, that would have been it. And it has become that. And it's been a wonderful thing. But I really thank the both of you for being like that. I think about this stuff a lot. I write about it a lot in the Free Press too, as you know. But I see the volunteers are rapidly becoming the lighthouses within communities. You look at a volunteer, just as you're saying, and when people join and do something, they actually become better as people, because we're social creatures, right?
Yes, we are.
But we're also humans, and we want to help other people. But I do think that the status of the volunteer has radically changed to the degree that now that they are essential.
Yeah.
I think when I think back, growing up, never once did I see anyone huddled with a blanket in a doorway. Never.
Yeah.
But my grandchildren see them all the time.
Yeah.
They can't walk anywhere in this town without seeing that, and that is so upsetting.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for coming today. It was a pleasure to have
Thank
you.
you.
on.
But just one other thing, before we
Is
finish.
this a pitch? Are
So,
you gonna-
yeah.
Oh, you're so good at this.
I've got
Yeah,
to
okay.
talk about the Christmas market
Yes,
a
we
bit,
should have, yeah.
because that's the reason why this whole thing came together.
Yeah.
Because with the Christmas market, we are addressing and we're inviting people like the food bank, like growing chefs who is teaching children how to grow and prepare good food.
That's right.
Like Habitat, where we're talking about housing. This year we have with us Homes for Heroes. So, you know, the Parkwood development that's going to happen. We also have with us the group that's helping families of the fallen from Afghanistan. You know, with the maple syrup. We have Urban Roots, once again, get the connection back to food. That it's actually grown in the ground, and we're going to have it for you at the market. So that's what that market's all about. And I'm hoping the community comes out to support it, because each of the organizations that are involved with the chalets are getting those proceeds directly.
And some profile, which is
Right.
great.
So the food bank will get all of the earnings, Habitat, and so on and so forth.
Well, we were determined to, when we had the idea for the Christmas market, not to have it a commercial venture, to have not-for-profits and to give back to the community. That was our focus, and believe me, it's harder work to do it that way.
Yeah.
But it's the most important. I guess there's that word meaningful again. It's more meaningful.
When it happens in a group, it is more meaningful. Margaret, I'll put the poster up, but what are the dates then?
So for the Christmas market this year, it's December the 5th from 4 to 8. We do that purposely because a lot of our community works days. So we want to give them an opportunity to be in the community and gather and have fun as well. And also on Saturday from 12 to 5, it is happening as well, the Christmas market. It becomes part of the larger Christmas in the village, which we all adore. And we also have the tree sales happening. So it's a wonderful community spirited event.
Well, very well encapsulated in the two of you. So thank you for all that you've done, and thanks for doing this.
No worries.
Thank you.